What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the 12 Games of Christmas presented by the Unlockables podcast. As always, I'm your host, Eric. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to this ongoing celebration of the best video games that I played in 2022 and a celebration of all things Unlockables in 2022. Hopefully you've been enjoying the 12 straight days of me so far. I can't think of a better gift for Christmas than anyone could ask for, but we're continuing our journey to talk about the 12 best games I played this year and a culmination of my game of the year. I think that makes a pretty good end, a pretty good Christmas celebration. But I could not do this episode alone. As I've had previous guests on previous episodes, I had to call somebody back in, an expert on the game that we will be talking about. Dashing through the snow on a one-horse open sleigh, returning to the Unlockables podcast for another round. It is my good friend, Kolby from the Switch It Up podcast. Kolby, how you doing today, sir?
I'm great, man. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor to be a part of this Christmas celebration, best time of the year. But yeah, I'm excited to get into today's game. And again, thank you so much for having me.
No problem, sir. Thank you always for coming on. And you came on when I interviewed you. I don't remember what episode it was. I probably should have wrote these down. But thank you for...
I'm in the car now because last time we recorded, like my hometown was like under attack. So
I do remember that the copters were coming in.
I apologize for everyone listening to that. God, I'm sorry, but today we were in the Kia to prevent any sort of tragedy from occurring. Hopefully, the audio sounds a lot better.
You sound wonderful, sir. And thank you so much for being a part of the first year of the Unlockables many years ago. But you and all the great friends that we made were the reason why it was such an awesome year. And I couldn't think of a better way to celebrate Christmas, celebrate the end of the year, celebrate almost an entire year of Unlockables than to do it with everybody that made this journey so incredible. And because of the game that we'll be talking about here, I had to have you on specifically. And of course, one of the 12 games that we're talking about is Fire Emblem Three Houses. Fire Emblem Three Houses, better known by its Christian name, which you highlighted, Teenage Relationship Simulator. So
you wrote that. I didn't do shit.
I did. I wrote that. So I was like, for the Christian name, I'm doing a Christian name for all of the games. And I was like, Teenage Relationship Simulator. The first one I had was its Christian name, My Hero Academia, but I didn't know if that was a good enough reference for everybody. So I just went with Teenage Relationship Simulator. I wrote that in there. That is me, 100%. You can direct that at me. Developed by Intelligent Systems and Koei Tecmo, published by Nintendo, it is the 16th entry in the Fire Emblem series, released worldwide simultaneously July 26, 2019. The school system and timeskip were inspired by Genealogy of the Holy War, which is an earlier game that I haven't played. I'm sure that probably a lot of people haven't played because it's stuck on the Super Nintendo, I think. 89 rating on Metacritic, 9.5 out of 10 on Game Informer, 9 out of 10 on GameSpot, 9.5 out of 10 out of IGN. Really, really high scores across the board. It won the Best Strategy Game Player's Choice Awards at the 2019 Game Awards. It has sold 3.82 million copies worldwide as of 2022, making it the most successful Fire Emblem game of all time. There was some DLC that came later, as well as a Warriors-style sequel, spin-off, something like that. Dynasty Warriors-style Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes, which I'm still waiting on you guys to finish all of your episodes on that, Kolby. So you have to brief us on how that's going.
I got some bad news.
Oh, no. That's not good. And then as far as the Christmas meter, which I have patented, I gave this one 5 out of 10 candy canes because you can give people gifts, and that's pretty Christmassy. So I couldn't give it any higher score than that, though, because was there snow in this game? I don't really remember. I played it
no
part of this year. Were there any missions in the snow? That's strange.
I mean, they heavily referenced that Fargus is cold, but no snow.
All right, maybe we'll bump that to like a 6. I can appreciate.
I think
that
a 6 is respectable.
Okay, yeah. But you can't give people gifts. So I figured that was in the spirit of Christmas. So it matches up. So, Kolby, I just wanted to, I'm not doing a list of 10 games that are from 2022, 12 games. I'm doing a list of 12 games that I played this year that I thought were the best experiences I had this year. So
Yeah.
I just want to know, what is your not so brief experience with the game, and just kind of talk about how it is here in the year 2022, year of our Lord.
Well, as far as my not so brief history with the game, I've dedicated about a month of my life to it. I honestly don't remember a time. I don't remember how that happened, but it definitely happened because my hours log says so. But I actually didn't play it at all this year. So Rick, if you're listening, I did not play in preparation for our episode. I just fell on the library of knowledge that I had, but I still think I came through with a pretty good performance. But even with that said, I think that it's my favorite modern day turn-based RPG, JRPG, or whatever you want to call it. And I think that just because we haven't had a Fire Emblem since, I still think it holds up really well today, and is deserving of being one of the most, I want to say, recognizable Switch games. Definitely the most recognizable Fire Emblem game at this point, I think, just based off its popularity. Got that spin-off sequel, whatever, with Warriors. Like Fire Emblem Warriors was a celebration of the entire series. That's just a celebration of Three Houses, so that should say something on its own. But
right,
yeah, Three Houses it's a really, really good game, and I think it's definitely deserving of being in everybody's library and deserving of all the success it has, because it really is a great game at its core.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And I think just the kind of review scores and the accolades the game garnered in the year it came out kind of speak for themselves. I mean, the Fire Emblem, I've been a fan of Fire Emblem since it came over on the Game Boy Advance. And the community around those games has always been super passionate. But I would say that they never really gotten the kind of recognition and accolades that I thought they deserved until this game. And, this game in the conversation for some of the best games of its year in its category. And I think personally, one of the best games, if not maybe the best game in 2019. I think that argument could very well be made. So, yeah, I did play it for Rick's show. So Rick, if you're listening, I did the homework.
Yeah, I just wrote my death sentence for the Pixel Project Radio. It was fun.
I think your performance did speak for itself. I would not have, if you wouldn't have told me you didn't play the game, I wouldn't even notice. But that's besides the point. But yeah, we had a fun time talking about this on Rick's show, and that was my reason for coming back to it. I played it in 2020, I think, and then I came back to it this year to play it for Rick's show. And yeah, I was honestly kind of surprised at how well it held up, but it was an incredible experience to play this year. So do you think, Kolby, even playing it this year, obviously Game of the Year, you're supposed to talk about the games that came out in 2022. I'm kind of bending the rules a little bit. Do you think out of everything that's come out this year, this game is deserving to be talked about this year? We've had the Elden Rings, we've had Horizon, Pokemon games, Xenoblade. We've had a lot of stuff this year.
I think it's disrespectful at this point to put Pokemon in the category of this, just because this is so much better. But
I meant more Legends Arceus than the upcoming one, or the one that came out last month, because we're totally not recording this at the end of October.
Listen, Scarlet Bot's not going to hold a candle to this. This is going to that takes an age very well. But I mean, just like it's tough to compare, because like I'll stick to like comparing Nintendo library to Nintendo library. I think that this game, God, it's close, because I just got done playing Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and that is just still on the forefront of my mind. But even so, if it's a toss-up between those two, I think we're doing pretty well as far as, because I've seen nothing but 9s and 8.5s and 10s for that game as well, which is what this game is coming in at critically. But just from a personal standpoint, I love them both for different reasons. Obviously, I have more of a personal connection to Three Houses just because of how much I've played it. My 12-year-old sister played it. Like, she would watch me play it. She has her own copy of it. I got it for her birthday, all that good stuff. But yeah, if this game came out today, I think it'd do just as well. Not just because of the Fire Emblem tag or all that, but I just think it's a really good game, and it tells a really good story, and there's passion behind the project. And I think the performances for voice acting and the combat is top tier in its class. But yeah, I think in 2022, Fire Emblem Three Houses would do just as well, if not better. You said 3.82. I want to say it's closer to 4 now, just because of the DLC and stuff. But if you were to re-release this game later down the line with its DLC included and stuff, so I think DLC makes this game a lot better. Adds 4 new characters, adds a cool story, all that stuff, and the characters are actually intertwined to the modern day plot if you recruit them and after you play it, which is cool. I think you do just as well. So yeah, in 2022, I think this game would do really well.
Yeah, even more so. I was thinking about, before we got asked to be on Rick's show, I was like, I need to play some Fire Emblem this year just because it's been a hot minute. And so I was kind of naturally already playing Three Houses when Rick asked us to come on the show, and I kind of sped up that process knowing that we had a deadline to play it. I was going to kind of just play it over the entire year, but I finished it in June. Yeah, it's... like you said, the in your notes, the passion, this game just feels like a game that they put literally everything into. I think bringing in Koei Tecmo to kind of help out. One thing that you guys on your show constantly talk about, and something that, really on this playthrough, after having listened to you guys kind of talk about it, I really tried to listen to, was the voice acting. And the voice acting in this game is absolutely phenomenal. Just a couple here. Chris Hackney's Dimitri, absolutely, like, that is his role. It's one of those roles where I would have a hard time disconnecting the person from the character they're playing. Like, that is very much his character. Zach Aguilar, while he doesn't get a lot of voice lines with Byleth, does great with kind of all of Byleth's inflections, his combat quotes and stuff like that. And I just love Zach Aguilar because he's in Demon Slayer. Joe Zieja as Claude. I love Claude in this game. So yeah, just the sound design, the voice acting, everything from top to bottom in this game is, you could tell that the people really cared about their characters, really cared about the game they were making. And to have just so much voice acting in a Fire Emblem game was something I came from reading lines and text boxes of dialogue on the GBA games, and like having to imagine what these characters sounded like, to now it's fully realized and it's fully spoken. And just to kind of look back and see kind of from where the series has come to, or where the series was to where it's come now, it is really, really incredible. I mean, there was a point in time where Japan just wasn't sending these games over here because they didn't think Americans or Western audiences could handle anything like this. And
they were right.
Thankfully, yeah, absolutely. Thankfully, Intelligent Systems, put out Advance Wars and changed everybody's mind, and this is kind of how we got this. Some of the music too. The music in this game is absolutely incredible. It's some of the best in the series. I know that you and I disagree on the best song, God Shattering Star. God damn, that's such a good fucking song, dude. What was your top song out of this one? I forgot.
Oh God. It's like it's a song that's not played a lot because the route is so hidden. But like a Funeral Flowers from the final battle of the Silver Snow route, I just love.
Absolutely.
I love the epicness of that one, and I just like Chasing Daybreak, the first battle after the post time skip. I think that's such a good, and between heaven and earth, because of the double meaning. Like that battle at Gronder Field is like life and death. So I love that too. Back to the voice acting real quick, I don't think Tara Platt gets enough credit as Edelgard in these conversations, because I feel she had a tough job too. But obviously with Chris Hackney, we say all the time that he got absolutely hosed in 2019 of a nomination for best performance. Like, the range you have to have to play down. The range you have to play that character is just got to be taxing, not just on your voice, but to bring that hatred out of him and to watch that rise back to the top. That's got to be a lot. But yeah, Funeral Flowers and Chasing Daybreak.
I'm trying to remember. I remember I watched the Game Awards that year, and I'm trying to remember who he was. I remember watching that category. I remember who he was up against. I want to say.
I think completely wrong. Who played
Was
Ashley
it Yuri Lowenthal?
Last of Us.
Oh, was it Ashley from Last of Us that won that one?
It was Ashley and Ellie. I think were both nominated, and I'm like, this is clearly a joke.
Ashley was played by Laura Bailey, I know, and Ellie was played by Ashley Johnson. So
I think one of them won because I just remember thinking, listen, he's got to be in the conversation. Like, I get that there's PNGs in the marketplace, but like, this is still a good video game, guys. Like, you got to nominate him. Like, this is a real video game.
Absolutely. I think I must have been like a year off because I was thinking like Yuri Lowenthal and Spider-Man, and yeah, because I think 2018 was Yuri Lowenthal for Spider-Man and like Christopher Judge for God of War. So, man, voice acting the last couple of years has been absolutely crazy, just in general. So, but yeah, so just continue on just some of the thoughts, because like I said, this is just kind of like a random kind of tangents here and there. Compared to earlier FE games, Kolby, do you have a lot of experience with earlier Fire Emblem titles at all, or?
If we count Smash Bros. As Fire Emblem, yeah, but other than that, no.
I mean, it might as well be. Okay. Yeah, we talked a little bit on Rick's show about how, like, and this was coming just a little bit from my perspective, like the difficulty was a little bit more scaled down compared to previous Fire Emblem titles. And I think that's a product, and that, not saying that's a bad thing. I think that's a product of, you have one of Nintendo's most famous, most successful consoles of all time in the Nintendo Switch. So I don't think putting out, and you obviously want Fire Emblem to be like a pillar of Nintendo going forward. You don't put out a crushingly hard fucking Fire Emblem game that just busts people's balls like it used to.
Well,
on the most popular
this
console.
Game definitely leaned into the teenage relationship simulator aspect for sure.
Yes, absolutely.
Which, I mean, listen, that's what sold the copies. That's what got people so invested in these characters. It worked like a charm, but yeah, giving you tactical strategy in times of war to not get your characters killed was not the forefront of their mind.
And not saying it didn't do that, because they're obviously they put the tools in there where you could play on casual, play on normal, play on any Fire Emblem game that you play on. I think it's like maddening difficulty.
You played classic normal, right?
Yeah, I did play classic normal. So that's like your base Fire Emblem experience. They do provide the ball crushingly hard difficulties though, if you feel like you're a crazy person, which I don't need that kind of abuse in my life. But yeah, just to kind of see it come from really this focus on combat. And there's always kind of those supports in the relationships in the series, but it never was like, they never got a chance to play out, because you had to build your supports like in combat, and the support conversations took place in combat. And then any other kind of relationships that were driven through the story were just delivered to you in like text-based cutscenes. So in this, to kind of see it come from where it was to where it is now, to where like the whole half of the game, the school portion of the game, is really like building relationships and getting to know your class and your characters that you have on your team, and determining the paths of growth that they take. And to come from not having those options to where it's just like you're locked into, oh, this is like from FE7, for example, this is what's a good example? The Cavalier unit. This is like Kent, and like he's a Cavalier unit, and that's all he's ever going to be, and he's just going to upgrade once to a Paladin, to like all these different choices you have as a player to kind of forge whatever relationships you want, to grow the characters however you want, is I really think they found that magic sauce. They kind of started to discover it with like Awakening and Fates, and then in this one they were just like, yeah, let's lean into it, and it really, really worked.
Oh yeah, 100%. I like some classes can learn, like Ingrid, if you make her a mage, she only learns like lightning magic, whereas like some of your best mages never learn lightning magic. So I'm not sure if there's any advantage to having elemental magic, but just one of the few examples.
Right, and I that's something I really didn't notice either, because that's another thing that they did really well, which is something I liked, is they pretty much unshackled you from the chains of the weapon triangle and gave you a lot more options with how to approach combat. And this is just me probably being an old head. I miss the weapon triangle just a little bit, just because I feel like it forced me to kind of make more tactical decisions when moving my units. Like I felt in Three Houses, I could be a little more aggressive when advancing my units or engaging in combat, because I didn't have to worry about sending my lance unit within range of an axe user, because that wasn't gonna screw me over that bad.
Yeah, just I didn't have to. He'll take care of it, like against anybody.
Yeah, exactly. And I felt like I didn't have to worry about dark magic versus anima magic, or just kind of thinking about those types of things. It just really opened it up a lot more.
I think that, just a quick theory on that, I think they got rid of that so they could highlight like the power between those who have crests and not crests. Because those who have crests are just more inherently powerful at units, which that's a cool little, nod, because the units that you go against that have crests are noticeably harder than those who don't. Yeah,
and I kind of like too how correct me if I'm wrong here, because I'm trying to remember from several months ago, but not all of the class members too have crests. Is that correct? Like some of them don't come from noble families.
No, a lot of them are. I know the Blue Lions have the most. They have like, 6 6 or 7 crest users, and everyone else has like 2 or 3.
Okay, gotcha. And yeah, so I think kind of that's a consideration that I didn't really think of before, is that when you take away one system with like the weapon triangle and stuff and you replace it with like the crests, I think that's a good way to kind of highlight that system and be like, hey, we took this away, but we're also giving you this system to kind of experiment to. And that kind of goes into with like the different skills and stuff they give you as well when you level up your classes.
Yeah, because crests become items in the later playthrough. You can give and make weapons and certain abilities compatible with other units that don't have those.
Right. And just really opens up, like I said, the older Fire Emblem games, you were really locked into these are your characters, these are their classes, these are the units. But now, especially in those later playthroughs, which I think gives this game a lot of replayability, and that's one of the notes I have on there, is you're able to kind of form your class however you want. Obviously, there are, the units start off learning specific skills, and there's kind of like a predetermined path to be like, hey, like these units would be good in these roles. But really, there's nothing from stopping you from, like you said, making Ingrid like a mage unit, even though I think I had her as a flyer and she absolutely wrecked literally fucking everything.
Falcon Knight, yeah, she destroys as a Falcon Knight.
Flyers are really fucking
There's
strong.
There's another gameplay thing too, whereas like if you level up, because I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, there was advantages that there were skills that units were naturally better at and they were naturally worse at. Like, I think they're indicated by blue and red arrows. So, for example, Felix is naturally bad at reason, but if you level up his reason enough, he gets like a budding skill. And he gets like a unique skill that's only unique to his ability, which makes him like a killer mortal savant. Like he can use like Thoron and stuff from like 3 spaces away.
I think, yeah. Oh, yes. I know. I'm glad that you specifically used the Felix example because that was what jogged my memory. Once like Mortal Savant was kind of like the extension of Swordmaster, which is kind of like what Felix's path is supposed to be. But yeah, when you start training him to be that Swordmaster or the Mortal Savant class, which is kind of like his end game class, yeah, you have to train Reason, and he's not good at training up his Reason skill. But they kind of said, hey, if you're going to take the time to invest in this skill that this character is not predisposed to be good at, we're going to give you a reward for that and give you different options to play. So I think that's really, really cool. Yeah, what did you think about all the different 3 routes, the hidden 4th route? And did you also play the DLC? Maybe you can speak on that a little bit too.
I did play the DLC.
Okay.
I like them all for different reasons. I like Golden Deer the best. I think just it's the most complete route of all of them. I actually think Silver Snow is a close second as far as like lore-based story because it does wrap things up pretty neatly. You do get the end game with the church. You don't get Nemesis, but you do get, final battle with Rhea. She lives or dies based on if you marry her, which little sketch there, but obviously you have the emotional climax with Blue Lions and the golden and the Azure Moon route and Dimitri's story, and then you kind of just have Crimson Flower. It's just there, but all of them are good for different reasons. I don't think there's a bad route. I do think some are better than others, but I don't think there's just like one route that you're just completely going to regret and be like, this sucked. I don't think there's any of that, which is a very good thing. The floor is very high, which I think for, I'm always down for that. And the ceiling is high too.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm kind of glad that when I first played the game, I did play the Black Eagle route first, and I did too.
End up got sucked in by the waifu trap.
Dude, it gets everybody every time. Waifu Simulator should have been the Christian name for this game, honestly, because that's what it was. But yeah, I'm glad I played that route first because I think all the routes are very good. I felt like Crimson Flower was, I think, arguably the weakest. But like you said, the floor,
weakest, yeah.
Yeah, the floor is still very high, which means that like all the routes are still worth playing and experiencing. And it could have been very easy to just put 3 routes in this game and just kind of make them like 3 identical routes that don't add too much. But they did take a lot of care to craft kind of 3 separate stories and 3 separate points of view from the conflict that erupts after you reach the splitting off point. It's about like chapter 10 or 11 or something like that.
Chapter 11.
And yeah, chapter 11. And I really kind of appreciate that, because if I was just playing the same story like 3 times, I would have been kind of like, oh, okay. Or if you would have played one story and like know how it like all wraps up and it doesn't really change from path to path, that wouldn't have been very exciting.
Well, that's what the spin-off game is, which is why it kind of sucks.
I remember you guys talking about that. I think Tyler just had Brock on for an episode a little while ago, and he was talking about how like
I can listen to
once
Tyler
you know
talk about
how
that game all day.
Once you experience how like the path ends or like the story ends, and that like that's how you know like the paths don't differentiate enough. Like basically, once you know the ending, and it doesn't change from path to path. Is that correct?
Yeah, I can listen to Tyler talk about that game all day. Like he doesn't even need me. He doesn't even need me for the episodes. He has enough. He has enough gas in the tank to just go. But
have you not finished all the paths on that game yet?
I haven't played. I've started Blue Lions. Haven't finished. That's the last one I have. But I do plan on finishing it because I do want to talk about the game as a whole on the show. But regardless, that's a different conversation for another day. But
It really is. I was just like, I was gonna say, yeah, I was gonna pick it up, and then I kind of heard you guys talk about it. I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to pick this up now.
No, you did. If you have a free like couple hours, you can wiki bomb it. That's about as much. Well, combat's just exhausting anyway. But
yes,
the DLC is good too. The DLC adds 4 new characters: Yuri, Constance, Happy, and Balthus. All became fan favorites. You get to see the Lords work together. They're all on the same team. They have support conversations with each other, so that part's really cool. I love that aspect of it. Yeah, and it's basically just the story about how this guy's just a complete simp for Byleth's mom, and you learn more about her. And like, I guess the 1100s version of simping is he like is mixing his blood with hers to revive her or some shit. Like, yeah, like he is down horrid, as they would say. But yeah, like Yuri learns like a double agent for the church, and Constance has this condition where she like in daylight, she's like double personalities, like if she's in daylight or not. Happy like can summon monsters. Happy's actually a product of Cornelia's experiments from the kingdom, the lady who takes over the kingdom in Dimitri's route. So, and Balthus is just kind of like a loose cannon. He's your party boy, but I mean, it's a lovable bunch. You recruit them all. They have conversations with the other characters in the main story, which I really like. Like Yuri was hired to assassinate a younger version of Bernadetta, but he couldn't bring himself to do it. So they have a conversation about that. Balthus is a rogue in the Alliance, and he was hired by Count Gloucester to dig up dirt on Claude, so they have conversations about that. And you kind of just get stuff like that throughout the entire story. Happy and Dimitri have a conversation about Happy's background, Dimitri's background, tragedy of Dusker. So it's a DLC that isn't just like its own separate story. It's super connected to the Three Houses game, which I think is super cool that they took time to do that. And it came out less than a year after the game's released, which was also very impressive.
I feel like they've been doing a lot more, because I remember when I played both Fates and Birthright, they also had the DLC that was like both of them combined, I think, and it added a bunch of stuff. And so they obviously figured out that worked and was successful, and implemented that going forward. And I'm glad they implemented that in the way they did too, because it would have been easy just to put out like a 4th DLC. It was like, oh yeah, like this is a route, and it's like not really connected. But the fact that they put in the work to kind of like interconnect it so intimately with everybody else's story, I think is really good. Like it would have been so easy to do the easy cash grab, like make 4 separate routes and just not put the work or not put the time into the history or the relationships between the characters. And I think that would have been a huge disservice. I think that's really what makes this game shine is, I love the tactical combat, but it's nice getting to like know these characters, and getting to know these characters too, especially if you go and play on the higher difficulties, then you have like an emotional attachment to them. Like when they die, they're gone. Like you're like, I put all this time and energy into getting to know these characters and expending my emotions on them, and really make them feel like they're part of the family, and then they're gone. So
yeah,
makes the pain
on my first playthrough, I thought that only factored in war phase. So when all my students died in the school phase and they didn't come back, I was kind of like, what the fuck's going on?
Oh man, I didn't know, because I don't think I ever lost any students during the school phase.
I'm like, God, this is weird. I only have a team of 5 in chapter 12. What's going on here?
Oh, that is very strange.
And in the aftermath, when they give you like the where they are now, they all like fucking died of polio or something, I guess, and that's how they canonically made sense.
Oh, woof, that's rough.
I was like, God, you should just let them come back.
Back in the 1100s before polio vaccines. Oh man, I'm not going to go down that road. Talk about some political, topical.
God, that'd be great if a second DLC came out where Manuela discovers the polio vax.
And we just get a Fire Emblem game that's like in the future, like future tech.
Hanneman's like we shouldn't do it. I'm a man of science.
Yeah, right. What was your science? He's like, I heard a podcast, or I heard a raven came to the window and delivered a letter to me that said vaccines aren't real.
The vax clots the blood of those with the crest of Blathed, Dimitri. Don't take it.
Oh God. It's all propaganda by those that slither in the dark. Those who slither in the dark. Yeah.
It's like, I'm staying out of this one. I'm gonna sit this one out, guys.
Right. She would only get in if it has a vested interest in advancing the church.
Will this resurrect Sothis? I'll take the vaccine. I'll take 9 of them.
Right. It was announced not too long ago, and obviously this was successful enough to garner a new entry in the Fire Emblem series. We'll be getting Fire Emblem Engage. I think that was supposed to be in like January or February.
January. What do you think of that name?
Fire Emblem Engage?
Engage to whom?
I just think it means like engage the enemy. Is it has to be engaged to somebody? I'm
not gonna lie. I'm not super sold on that game, to be honest.
What parts of it don't make you seem super sold?
First of all, I'm not a huge fan of the Colgate protagonist. That's just a visuals thing. I'm not wild about that. And I just
Toothpaste Chan.
Like, they're dropping a lot of stuff on Twitter, but I'm not watching it. Like, they're dropping a lot of information on this game. I know a lot of information is out there, but how the summons are gonna work, I guess, is the best way you can put them. Like Marth and Cecilia and all of that. I think Violet's one. I don't know how it's gonna work.
Right.
I'd be shocked if that game's better than this one.
I think I would too. I don't know if that's possible just because of how high of a bar Three Houses set. I feel like they are taking, and this might be kind of a weird comparison, but first of all, I feel like the summoning thing, as soon as I saw it, reminded me of the mobile game immediately. I was like, oh, we're going to be bringing in heroes from all these different times, all these different games. Like that, I immediately thought of Fire Emblem Heroes when I saw that. I don't know if that's accurate, but that's kind of where my thought process took me. It took me down the path to why they made the Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu Pokemon remakes of the first gen. Was like, they're like, oh, we see the success of Pokemon Go, a highly popular mobile game, so now we're going to capitalize off that. So I kind of felt like that was kind of the same reason they're going the Engage route here, where they're like, look, you can summon all these characters that you know and love. And I was like, cool. I'm probably going to get it just because they're bringing back like the weapon triangle and some of the more old school stuff of the older Fire Emblems. Listen, I'm a simp for the weapon triangle. Don't make fun of me.
Sit down, kids. This is my Fire Emblem game.
Yeah, right. You're about to learn about the weapon triangle. Don't put your lance users near that axe. You're going to get fucked up. Although they just shared the graphic that apparently like fists beat all range weapons, which I think is fucking awesome.
I think Magic just destroys like I saw Magic had like advantages on 3 different skills. I'm like, this just doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, I'm very amused at the prospect of like people that have range weapons just getting absolutely annihilated by people who just throw punches. I think that is hilarious.
You got 2 shots, Archer. He's gonna rip your throat out.
Yeah, right.
Don't miss.
I think that's gonna be fantastic. But I'll probably pick it up just to check it out. I don't know, like, I don't claim to understand how the process of like character creation or design works, or how the approval process is for that. But I have to imagine that goes through, especially if you're working for something that's going to be published by Nintendo. You know, I have to imagine that goes through several rounds of like peer review and approval and stuff like that. So to like end up with such a weird looking, like, I don't know who saw the red and blue protagonist and was just like, yes, this is okay. I honestly don't know.
Those are the colors Mario wears. Put them on.
Yeah, right.
People will recognize this. This will get quote tweets.
I mean, I've been a long time fan. Like, you know, we've talked about this as longtime fans of Tetsuya Nomura. We have seen our fair share of insane character designs, but I can't ever say I saw something that made me stop and scratch my head quite like this.
God, I'd love Tetsuya's thoughts on this protagonist.
Right. He would just be like, "Oh, you need more belts on it, obviously." That'd be the first thing.
Yeah,
and then,
good God. 12 belt loops, that's not nearly enough.
So, but yeah, if we haven't really kind of covered it now, we highly think that Fire Emblem Three Houses is a good game. It's good enough that I wanted to talk about it at the end of the year. You should definitely go pick it up, give it a chance. I think if you're at all interested in giving Fire Emblem the series a try, I think Three Houses is probably a good place to start, and it's probably the most accessible game out of all of them, honestly. If you go back to some of the earlier GBA titles, if you haven't like grown up or been raised with that, it could be a little bit difficult, a little bit annoying. It's definitely a slower pace, but I think this is a great spot for anybody looking to kind of experience the series for the first time.
I 100% agree. It's one of my favorite games of all time, a game with a lot of replayability and a lot of love behind it. Easy at times, yes. Storyline confusing at times, yes, but at the core, it's a fantastic game with a lot of passion behind it if you have any interest in the series at all. And get this game, not just because it's probably the only one you can find in stores and not have to sell your soul on Mercari for it, but just get this game because it's really good, and I really do think you'll immediately get sucked in like Eric and I were.
100% true, because I think most of the games until this one, the last couple of games, were on the 3DS, and 3DSs are really fucking expensive right now, and all 3DS games are really expensive because they don't make them anymore. So
yeah, Nintendo made sure to get the shut that shit down.
Yeah, absolutely. They're like, listen, this is going off sale, and now 3DSs are like $300 on Amazon, so it's great. Thanks, scalpers, appreciate it. But yeah, we've talked about that enough. Go check out Fire Emblem Three Houses. Kolby, I know you were kind of dying. I appreciate you getting into your Kia office and taking a few minutes
Eric,
to with me to chat.
I promise one of these days we're going to have a recording where I am not either getting bombarded aerially or my own body is betraying me. I'm sorry about that, but thank you so much for sticking with me. If for some reason you decide to have me back on, I promise we will make it through without any complications.
There are many, many more projects we have to work on together, so don't you worry about that. Do you want to take a quick moment to, if for whatever reason this is somebody's first time listening to the show, do you want to just tell people where they can find you, what you do, real quick?
No. Okay.
Just no, I don't. Okay, that's fine.
I don't want anyone to find our show. No, Switch It Up podcast, Apple, Spotify, your All Things Nintendo podcast, hosted by, at the time this is out, still college seniors. I am right around the corner of graduating. Tyler, unfortunately, another story. But yeah, Switch It Up podcast, your All Things Nintendo podcast, pretty laid back, pretty casual. We'll put episodes out when we want, and that's just how it goes.
Perfect. And to all of you out there, if you've managed to get through the first few days of 12 Games of Christmas, we've got more to come. Don't you worry. Whole other week of content.
What game's after this?
I don't know. I haven't decided. I just kind of make it up. I kind of make it up as I go along. So
I'm going to take a guess. We'll see how well this ages. The next game after Fire Emblem Three Houses is going to be Frogger.
Man, you've got it. Yep. That is, in fact, my game of the year, 2022, is Frogger.
Well, enjoy it, guys. Enjoy Frogger. Whoever's on for that one, no, you should do Cuphead and have Keith on as his favorite retro game.
Oh, man. I'm sure that will come up. That might be topical by the time this episode comes out. I do not know, but we shall see. Kolby, thank you so much again, sir. Really appreciate it. I'm going to let you go and get some rest, get you out of your car office. And to everybody out there, Merry Christmas. Don't be stupid. It's not about commercialism. It's about family. So go see your family. Don't worry about presents.
Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown.
Merry Christmas, Charlie Brown. Have a good night, everybody.